All right. Good morning. I think I have somebody in the chat. Shout out to you. Oh, hey, Crafts in the Hall with Leela. How are you doing? Happy Saturday. Thanks for being here with me. So I know this is a weird time, so hopefully we'll have other people join us, Leela. But a lot of people might be hitting the replay. So we'll see. So I know I promised you guys a gazpacho video with Marie Laveau. Like I think this was like 2 weeks ago. So my apologies for not getting it out to you sooner. When I finally sat down to do the research, it's kind of crazy because I heard somebody say this before about Google, but I didn't really believe it. So I couldn't find. There's a lot of stuff I found like basic information about her, but some of the more like lore related to Marie Laveau, it was just kind of lackluster. So I decided to go to I think Yahoo, and I did a search there, and a lot of things came up that didn't come up in the Google search, which I thought was very interesting. So I had a lot of resources for this. So hopefully you guys enjoy it or learn some things. I might still do the Queen Nanny one in the future. We'll see. But thank you for being here, Leela. I hope you enjoy this. So I want to start by talking about how I first heard about Marie Laveau. So I'm not going to say for many of us because I don't know what people's experiences are, but for me, the first time I ever heard of her was from American Horror Story. Now, what's interesting in doing research is that I realized the Marie Laveau and AHS scene. Hey, good morning, Sister Crystal. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. Um, yes, it's kind of crazy that it was like, wait a minute, this is a little bit different than the Marie Laveau that I looked up. But I love my favorite season of American Horror Story is Coven. It was just so good. It was so good. And first, I think that was the first season that they introduced Angela Bassett as a character. And she was just so amazing. Like I am so here for Angela Bassett. She's just amazing, amazing actress. And so she plays Marie Laveau, the Voodoo Queen. And it's kind of wild because it was really interesting how they in that show they kind of talked about like I guess regular witches, and then they had the voodoo priestess, and they talked a lot about the supreme, which is like the head witch, I guess, in the coven, in American Horror Story. And for me, I felt like Angela Bassett's role as the voodoo queen or Marie Laveau was pretty much on the same level. So they had kind of like some wars and beefs for I think 10 years, and then they finally worked together. But anyway, that's how I found out about her, and I didn't know she was real. Just like that crazy evil ass lady. What is her name? Delphine Lorelai. Child, that lady is evil as hell. I don't encourage you to look her up because her crimes are so disgusting, like just so horrible. So anyway, those two people are real. Marie Laveau is real. I don't know if they existed at the same time. I hadn't looked into that, but Delphine is definitely also real. So she was anyway. We don't want to mess up the energy by talking about that lady. So yeah, that's how I first heard of her, and it made me curious, and I looked her up, and yeah, so she was known as the Voodoo Queen in New Orleans. So let's get into her actual story because that is the American Horror Story version of her. Yeah, Sister Crystal, I know that's the worst when we tell people like, don't do it. You know that some people are gonna be like, yo, let me go find out. Sister Crystal, you better have some stuff ready for nausea because that lady is gross. Like Delphine, I don't even remember. It's disgusting. You know what? I recommend a video. There is this person I follow. Her name is Bahati Life, I think, and she does a video on it. It's older, like a couple years maybe. She does a video on her. It's crazy. Like if you watch American Horror Story and you saw that Delphine character, that was pretty much on par with a lot of the evil shit she did back in her time. So you've been warned. Anyway, so let's talk about Queen Marie Laveau. So the real Marie Laveau was born on September 10th, 1801. Okay, in New Orleans, and she was born a free woman of color. I believe her. So much information. This information is all over the place, but I think her father is biracial, and her mother was African. But anyway, she is a Creole woman. So that is how they identify her as a Louisiana Creole woman. Sister Crystal said, "Thank you so much for warning." I try to warn people so you know what you're walking into because it's that lady is just gross. Anyway, she did a lot of evil stuff to black people too. So, Marie Laveau, she actually, this was very surprising to me. Maybe some of you guys might know this, but she, even though she was born a free woman of color, she actually owned 7 slaves in her lifetime. That was surprising. And apparently, so when I was doing my research, it said that it's not uncommon for free blacks to purchase their own slaves. And Marie Laveau actually did a lot of charity work and a lot of altruistic things. But that had me shook. I was like, oh shoot, she owned slaves. That's crazy. So that was something I learned. And I'm going to talk about how she ended up becoming like the voodoo queen in New Orleans. So, as I was saying earlier, when I was doing my research, Google was very, very lackluster in terms of providing details about the lore around Marie Laveau. It was able to provide historical information, but not like not stuff about the magic she did, the way she helped people. It was very, very vague. I thought that was strange, and so I had to look at other search engines, and then I found other sources. So let's talk a little bit more about her life before we get into her alleged powers and ceremonies and things like that. So she was known as a Creole practitioner of voodoo. Okay, she was also a midwife, a herbalist. This is debatable, but they also say she was a hairstylist, which is interesting because I think in American Horror Story, I remember them portraying her as that as well. But that is seems to be disputed. I don't know if that's true, but she definitely was a herbalist and a midwife in the New Orleans area. And she first got married when she was 18 to Jacques. Okay, so I am not. I studied Spanish in school, not French. So please forgive me if I butcher any of these French names. Jacques Paris, that was her first husband, and apparently he was a refugee from the Haitian Revolution. Child, listen, the Haitian Revolution could be like a whole nother video. It was crazy. The stuff like, just look up the Haitian Revolution. And actually, if I do end up doing the Queen Annie video, some of that ties into that. Some of that ties into that because I know they use a lot of allegedly magic to defeat um, France, but that's debatable depending on what you believe. So anyway, I just think that story is fascinating. Um, so here's the thing, though. In addition to her being a dedicated practitioner of voodoo, she was also a devoted Catholic. And I found in multiple sources that her belief in Catholicism it wasn't incompatible with her practice of voodoo. And I've actually heard this before. A lot of people apparently who practice voodoo are also Catholics or also Christians. So it's very interesting, like, because a lot of us, we grow up hearing certain things, and it's very interesting with voodoo. Voodoo is actually considered a religion. I don't know if you know that, but it's actually considered a religion. So anyway, her first marriage was to Jacques Paris, and I don't know how long they were married, but at some point he kind of disappeared. Dun dun dun. Not a lot of information. They say they don't know if he left or if he died or if there was foul play. It's just he just kind of up and disappeared, kind of like a couple of her daughters. I don't know. Like, I think she had kids with him. There's a lot of shaky information, so I'm just warning you guys now. Like, I scoured a lot of resources, but that part seems to be consistent. That there's information that isn't that's a little messed up when it comes to her first marriage and whether she had kids with him. But then she married a second man. I don't know how old she was then, but his name came up as two different names. Let me see here. Her second husband, she actually wasn't like married to him. He was a common law marriage because they were together for so long. And his name is Dominic Glapion or Christophe Glapion. I saw different names. It was very interesting. And they had 15 kids together, guys, 15 children. So uh, Dominic, aka Christophe, was her second partner, husband, and he basically was with her, devoted to her until he passed away. So that is a little bit of her history in terms of like her who she was with. Yeah, isn't that crazy, Leila? I was really surprised. I was like, 15 kids, damn. I now what's interesting about the kids is there wasn't a lot of information about her kids except for Marie the Second, and I don't know once again which marriage that was from, but there's a lot of stories about surrounding her too. I didn't dig much into Marie the Second. I was just focused on her mom, but that is one of the kids' names that kept coming up. So let's talk a little bit about her training. This was also information that was very difficult to find. I think it would be cool to, I don't know where I would find this person, but I think it would be cool to kind of interview either people from her family who are in New Orleans, if they're still, I'm sure she still has like, living ancestors, or like even like, I'm pretty sure like voodoo priestesses, some of them would probably know some of the history. Like I think some of that stuff is more kept under wraps. But anyway, her training, what the little that I know about training and voodoo priestesses and things is that it can be very formalized. So voodoo is, I mentioned before, it's actually, even though a lot of people practice Catholicism or Christianity and voodoo, voodoo is considered its own religion. I'm pretty sure that it got recognized at some point as its own religion. But voodoo is also very formalized in the sense of it has a lot of structure to it. It's very ritualistic, whereas I think hoodoo is more about the craft and more about, I think, magic. So I think hoodoo is taken from voodoo, but it doesn't have all the bells and whistles in terms of like how ritualistic it is. I think the spirits or deities involved are different things like that. So, for example, I think the Loas are a big part of voodoo. If you watched American Horror Story, you would have heard about Papa Legba, and apparently he is a well-known Loa in voodoo. So I don't know how they categorize the deities, or I don't even know if the actually deities is the right word. I'm not sure, but let's say entities, because I don't want to like disrespect or say the wrong thing. But anyway, so just a little bit of info about the differences between voodoo and hoodoo, the limited thing that I do know about it, because I was wondering like why do they use different words? So once again, voodoo is more ritualistic. It has like hierarchies, it has training and different things, and then hoodoo is more about the craft, about just like the magic and improving your life with herbs and like natural things from the earth. So anyway, so let's get into ceremonies and powers. Oh no, wait, we didn't talk about her training. So her training. So it is rumored that Marie trained with Dr. Jean Montaigne, okay, or Dr. John. And one of the sources said that Dr. John was allegedly an African prince from Senegal. I don't know if that's verifiable. I only found that in one of the sources. Now, Dr. John was the main voodoo doctor in New Orleans at the time. And I found another name of who she trained with. I can't remember. It was another French name, but John was definitely one of them. And so eventually, what my guess is, Marie just probably kept getting more and more popular, and her services were more and more sought after. And I think that's kind of how she rose to fame, or to be known as like the voodoo queen in New Orleans. That's my sense, because it doesn't talk about what happened to Dr. John, but that's one of the people she trained with. I also read about that hey Ben, happy weekend to you too. I also read about, I think she would have learned things from some of the women in her family, which I think is kind of typical for things like that, in addition to training with Dr. John. Now, in the research I also came across, it said that in New Orleans, people had been practicing voodoo for a long time, but it was under wraps. Like the people who were, whether they were direct slaves from Africa, they were mixing kind of, I guess like part of it was kind of a mixture of what they remember from their spirituality and adding in other things. So very, very interesting. So it wasn't like anything new that she was doing. It was just that she was just one of the most popular people who's ever done it. And I think it had to do with like a mixture of not just African, but also Caribbean people and beliefs and different things. So let's get into the juicy part, the ceremonies and the powers. Now, this is the part I really, really wanted to look into. And this is the part that it was coming up short, guys. Like there just wasn't a lot of information. So anything that you guys know, feel free to write it in the chat, or if you're watching the replay, feel free to put in the comments. But these are things that I found, and I had to look at so many resources. Okay. So many things, and it was still skimpy. So I think maybe she's probably the type of person you like read a book about or something to find out more gems or more juicy details. So the ceremonies and powers. So some of her powers included healing the sick, and whether that was just by her knowledge of herbal remedies, that was one thing she was well known for. She was very altruistic. She extended a lot of gifts to the poor. Okay. She oversaw spiritual rites. So again, she often blended her Catholicism with her practice of voodoo. And it said that she dispersed charms, potions, grigris. I don't know if I'm saying this right. Gris. The way it sounded was like they were kind of like mojo bags. So I think in hoodoo, I think that's what they call them, is mojo bags. So I don't know if grigri is like the same thing. That was the sense. Anybody could drop down and let me know. So anyway, other things that she did was saved convicted men from the gallows. Sometimes that could be in the form of alleged poison. Sometimes it could be getting them off, like, whether it was completing spells to get them off of their charges. I only found a couple stories, like not necessarily about that, but just like how she got this one guy like free of his charges. And I didn't really like the story because it was a story about how he arred a woman and he got away with it. I think it was interesting. Again, you have to kind of see the source, because just like I said, it was hard to find information on Google. You got to be careful who you're getting information from. Binge said the true power of magic lies in the secrecy. And you know what, Binge? I agree with you. And I think that makes a lot of sense why you can't find a lot of stuff. So with Nanny, I've been learning about her for years. And it took a long time to find out what some of the stuff she did. Like, it was really, really crazy. It was amazing too. It was like Nanny's story is juicy, extra juicy. So I think I agree with Benj. I think that a lot of efforts were made to keep it secret. First of all, you have to think about it would have been, I don't know back in her time, but there would have been time periods when that was dangerous or illegal to do, because they didn't want Black people to have any power, right? And so a lot of that ceremonies and things were done in secret, or it was disguised as something else, and they had no idea what was probably going on. And so, I think a lot of the secrecy also lies around that, not just protecting the craft and the knowledge. Look at what happened to the Native Americans. Look at what happened to them, So it's just, I don't know. I think people have learned to kind of keep certain things to themselves. So I totally agree with Binge there. Other things she did was she did a lot of divination. So a lot of the services, it says it was conducted at her home and at a cottage on St. Anne Street in New Orleans. So she had a couple locations where she did this work. She also would visit prisoners that were condemned to death. And I think that might be some of like the, overseeing spiritual rights parts, helping them to kind of come to, it depends, like it's, again, she mixed her Catholicism with her voodoo. So it could be helping them to kind of repent or, thinking over what they did. Those are some things I read. I just want to stop and read some of these comments. Sister Crystal said, honestly, that voodoo and hoodoo stuff sounds scary, but I feel safe with you talking about the pressure cooker. Yeah, Sister Crystal, I think for a lot of people, it does sound scary. I know for me growing up, it sounded very scary. And then I'm not saying it isn't, and I'm not saying there aren't aspects of it, but I also think about how African spirituality or any African-based religions are demonized. And then you think about the history of how people either use that to strengthen themselves or to overcome certain things. And that just was not something that slave owners would have wanted. Okay. They don't want any type of empowerment. They want subjugation. And so I think a lot of that fear comes from that, and also the way it's portrayed. And think about it. I want you guys to think about this for a moment. Okay. When it comes to whether it's ancient Egypt, ancient China, ancient Japan, when they talk about their lore, their magic, Do you guys think it's demonized in the same way? And maybe you don't know, but be honest. Do you think it's demonized in the same way? They talk about it as fantastical. There's all kind of anime. There's all kind of movies. You just don't get the same sense when they talk about Egypt, Japan, China, and other cultures. Even I'm trying to think of well, I don't know if India is has a lot of like magic based. I'm not sure. I don't know enough about their culture. But do you know what I'm saying? See, Benj gets it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like it's the way they portray it. Even the media, um, it's all portrayed to be scary and horrible. And you have to think about who started these narratives, right? Who started these narratives and why? You know, who are they serving? So while I understand and resonate with what Sister Crystal is saying, I've also learned to challenge some of those beliefs because people talk about the scary, dark things about that side of things when again you don't hear that a lot of those people also were Christians or also practice Catholicism. And really, if you hopefully I don't offend anybody, but really, if you look at Catholicism and early Christianity, you know, we'll take like for example, where did I hear this recently? And I was like, oh, I never thought about it like that. When they talk about communion, okay, like the symbolism of drinking, whether it's grape juice or wine, as to represent Christ's blood, or eating bread to represent Christ's body, that is a ritual. It doesn't. It's a Christian ritual, but it's a ritual, and you can compare that to other like things in witchcraft. So you know, again, not saying that it is, but look at how those things are influenced, and look at how things, you know, because they have on robes, fancy robes and things. Why is that looked at as different? And I'm just trying to make a point there. Ben says self-liberation practitioners is empowering, and this is one of the reasons it's demonized. Absolutely, Benj. There's a lot of ways that people use magic to better their lives. They don't talk about that. You only hear about the scary stories of people getting cursed, and that is a real thing, guys. Like that is a real part of it. Okay, for example, I'll give you another example of how I kind of think of the describe hoodoo and voodoo. So with I think in witchcraft, Wicca is considered a religion. That is an order, that is like a specific way that they do things. Whereas you might have somebody like a green witch or a white witch or a house witch. They're not with a coven, they're not, it's not religious. You can have your own beliefs and practice that. Whereas Wiccans, this is like if you identify as a Wiccan, this is the way you're following, if that makes sense. So that's kind of the similarities that I would say. But anyway, I think African based spirituality is demonized. And if you look at the parallels, look at Native American spirituality. Now, I'm not going to lump them all into a box because there's different tribes and there's different belief systems, but a lot of it overlaps and resonates in terms of reverence for nature. Hey, Nessa. Good morning, love. Reverence for nature, taking care of the earth. You know, I think there's a lot of knowledge from indigenous people that, you know, we miss out on. And I think a lot of indigenous people have learned, listen, we're going to keep this shit secret. Just like we can't find stuff from Marie Laveau. We're going to keep this shit secret, okay? Because the white supremacists around here, they love stealing everything, okay? I've actually heard, I don't know if this is true, but I have heard that while they're simultaneously demonizing, hey, peace, love, good morning. While they're simultaneously demonizing African-based religions or Native American spirituality, a lot of them are stealing that shit and using it for their own gain. You know, take it as how you want to hear it, but I've heard that and I can totally believe that. Okay, but let's keep it moving. Okay, that's I'm getting off track. It was a juicy segue, but it was a segue that was really, really worth it. So shout out to Sister Crystal. Thank you for your comment because that's really powerful. Let's see. Okay, so let me keep going. Let me find my spot, child, because y'all know I'll be getting where am I? So I was talking about the ceremonies and powers, divination, visiting prisoners condemned to death. Now, this is a tidbit that I found very interesting. So she had both white and black customers or people that sought her out. And she, in one of the resources, it said that the whites were charged a higher rate and the blacks were charged little to no fee. So again, plays into some of her altruistic, um, the way she was a community oriented person, and think about the time, that period that she would have been living in, right? Bench said natives were criminally punished for elemental healing. I wish I could just pin this, like, Bench. Yes, they were. Yes, they were. They literally beat the spirituality out of them. They put them in stuffy clothing and put them in these damn residential schools. Okay, like people don't realize the real tea. This is what I'm saying. Don't be fed stuff. Do your own research, because the more I look into indigenous people, to me it seems like those are the people those are some of the people we should be asking, like, yo, how do we take care of the earth? Because they get it. You know what I mean? They get it. So, how do we connect to the elements? Like, I don't know. I think that back in the day we used to be more connected to those things. And for some people groups, they're still very much connected to that. And again, that gets synonymized with animism. And again, I don't know how people get demons out of, elemental healing, but it's very interesting. Very, very interesting. Uh, Peace, love, saying hi to Crystal. Nessa saying good morning. Okay. Also, it said that she helped people beat charges. And excuse me. So with the ceremonies, it said she conducted voodoo ceremonies. Now, very little information about the ceremonies, guys. Just like when I did some nanny research, very, very limited info. There was dancing. I think apparently Marie Laveau had a pet snake, a boa called Zombie. That's also disputed. I don't know if that's true or not, but again, so there was some dancing. Now, I thought it was interesting that the voodoo ceremonies, in all of my research, only one of the resources mentioned the word Loa. And I found that very interesting because I'm pretty sure that's a central piece to voodoo, is belief in the Loas or conjuring of spirits or anything like that, ancestor veneration. I thought that was, again, who the hell is writing these articles? I don't know. Like, I don't know that much, but I knew enough to be like, this is interesting. They didn't mention any of this stuff. Once again, for the people just coming in, good morning, Tiffany. You saved me a glass of wine. Like I said earlier, sorry for the people who've been here to hear me repeat this. If you're doing research on certain things and it's coming up short, check out other search engines, because Google be on some stuff. And I think they suppress certain things. And that's all I'm going to say. So check out other search engines because other things will come up. Okay, so also at the ceremonies, it's also was stated that there were statues of saints. So this would be like where some of her Catholicism played in, but also we know that, like I just said, there's a lot of ancestor veneration, incense, holy water. So you can see where both of those practices are merged. She prayed with prisoners condemned to death. So she did a lot of stuff. I wish I could find more things about ceremonies, powers, and like the different services that she offered. But again, when I tell you, I mean, I probably have over 10 resources that I consulted. And the stuff that I just shared with you is what I found, right? So that is a big part of the work that she did. And then she died on June 15th, 1881. She was 79, guys. 79 years old. Okay, her tombstone location is disputed. They're saying it could either be hers or her daughter's, but there is a site that people often visit. They still visit it frequently. They leave gifts and offerings, and I think sometimes people still petition her when they want certain things done. I'm trying to think if I heard. I'm trying to think. I don't know who would think of her as a saint, and if it's in voodoo or if it's just ancestor veneration, but I also saw something about that as well, like that she is considered a saint. Again, the information. I was so surprised, guys, at how little information there was about the lore. It was really crazy. I was really, really blown away. There's a lot of stories in New Orleans about her ghost haunting various parts, her and her daughter's ghost. Sometimes they say she appears as an apparition, and sometimes she appears as an animal. So it could be a crow or a dog. I think I've seen something else, maybe a snake, but usually a crow. And there's also some lore that says, I only saw this in one place. So in one of the lore, it said that she didn't really die. She kind of transitioned into a crow, and can be seen around New Orleans. So a lot of different lore there, a lot of ghost sightings. I forget the different places. There's multiple places in New Orleans that they say her spirit haunts or her spirit is present. So it's very interesting, very, very interesting. But a lot of healing. I mean, again, to go back to some of the works and stuff that she performed, that is a big part of, I think, hoodoo and voodoo. A lot of it is healing and protection. Yes, there are elements of cursing and things, but I was reading this book and it was talking about uh, hoodoo, and it was talking about obia, and how there's also, hey, good morning, Praglama. It also talks about, I think with obia, there's an element of justice. So instead of necessarily looking, yes, there are people who will curse people, but I think there's also an element or an aspect of obia that is considered justice. So, people kind of getting their just desserts. I don't know. But just like voodoo and hoodoo, a lot of that is would have been outlawed for many reasons. Again, especially during slavery times or coming out of slavery. It sounded like Marie Laveau's time, she was able to be a little bit more open. I don't know if it's because she hit it really well. And I also wonder if it's also because she was also a devout Catholic. So she often attended mass. I mean, it didn't sound like a cover. It sounded like she was devoted to both her um, belief in Catholicism and her practice of voodoo. It didn't, again, in all the literature that I read, I was surprised that they didn't try to talk about how incompatible those were. Actually, it said they didn't conflict with each other, and so I thought that was a little bit more progressive thinking. And like I said, I've read other things about a lot of people who practice voodoo are also Catholics, Christians, and other things. So now that is the information that I have. I'm sorry for those of you just coming in, but I want to open the floor for questions. Anything related to this topic or anything coming out of this topic, please feel free to put your questions. I'm going to give you guys a moment for that. And then we can keep the conversation going. I'm just going to, hey, Just Blaze, Detroit. Shout out to you, sis. Nessa Allen, Proud Glamour. I'm going to say hi to people. Please, please, please write your questions in the chat. Don't be afraid. And even your thoughts, right? I love Sister Crystal, what she shared earlier. Like, some of this kind of creeps me out a little bit. And then, it kind of led us into a mini conversation about why. Why does it freak us out, right? Curses are for retribution, right, Benj? And when I read that, it really shifted my perspective on like what I've heard. Again, yes, it could be used to harm people. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like there aren't people out here that's trying to straight up harm people, or straight up trying to steal people's partners from them and things. Like, there are people who do things like that. But when you think about the retribution part, like, even again, I hate to use AHS as a reference because it's a fictional show, but I believe believe how they introduced Marie Laveau's character in AHS was there was a crime that was committed by a white person against a young black boy. I think they killed him. And Marie Laveau, in AHS, she conjured the hell out of some spirits. Matter of fact, they weren't just spirits, okay? She had it sounded like necromancy. She brought some individuals back from the dead to terrorize and kill the man that killed that little boy. Sounds like retribution to me, okay? I just found that very interesting. Ben said, Ben is just saying, good morning. Just Blaze said, when I started reading tarot, it messed me up. The amount of Christian Catholics who deal in divination. Exactly. But I'm going to mind my business. And Just Blaze, you missed it, sis. I was talking about how, I don't remember where I heard this, but they were talking about some of the ritualistic things in Catholicism or Christianity that obviously look like a clear ritual, even down to the communion. And, how sometimes that could be synonymous with what people consider witchcraft and things, but it's like those are similar elements: drinking blood, eating flesh. Like that doesn't sound creepy to y'all when you separate it from whatever Christian worldview, if you have a Christian worldview. I'm just saying, it really made me think about things differently. Like, wow, that's very interesting. Again, ancestor veneration. Let's pop back on that topic. I've seen and heard many, whether it's Asian related, Asian theme animation or movies, where they're basically talking about ancestor veneration without those words. It is not demonized, it is not demonic. So, why is it that when ancestor veneration, I mean, if you think about it, aren't people who observe the saints technically ancestor veneration? Maybe that's a stretch for some people, but again, I like to draw parallels. You know, how comes that none of that's demonized, but when it comes to people remembering their ancestors, and doing all that, it is demonized when it comes to Black culture, and I think also in Native American and Indigenous culture. Just pay attention to that, guys. What is accepted, what is promoted, and what is demonized? Again, who is it that they don't want to feel empowered? Seems to be a trend. Praglama said, yes, they sure did use Marie Laveau's story in AHS. They did. That was how I first heard of her, even though I felt like a lot of it didn't really match what I learned. Yes, that's gross. Religion is full of pagan rituals. Facts on facts is, some people are going to get upset about that, but that's actual facts. Natasha Razor. Hey, Natasha, I've never seen you here before. Anything to do with Black people is demonized. Absolutely. And that's what I've learned. And that's the thing that I've recognized, is that anything to do with us, our traditions, the things that they try to strip from us. Again, I'm learning the parallels between Native Americans. I say Native Americans, but I'm in Canada now, but like Indigenous people of North America, let's say that. Okay. I'm learning about those parallels and how a lot of things are demonized. And again, looking into it, for example, hoodoo, a lot of the things that people do in hoodoo is meant to improve their life, right? It's meant to improve their life. It's meant to in different aspects of their life. Very interesting. Thank you for that, Natasha. Tiffany said, I couldn't stand how they fleshed out the Marie Laveau story, and the other Black witches on AHS started out strong, but ended up womp womp. Tiffany, that's a really, really good point. And I think that shows it points to people who don't know their history. So I'm going to throw myself under the bus that I loved AHS Coven, right? Loved it. But I think I loved it for superficial reasons, because there's not a lot of shows that portray, I think, even witches in a positive light. Well, there are, but witches of color at least, right? So I did like that part. And I also liked that they were kind of juxtaposing voodoo with like whatever witchcraft, like showing that they were pretty much equally powerful, at least in that show. You hear, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but a lot of, I don't want to say white witchcraft, because there's all kinds of people who practice witchcraft from different races and ethnicities. But if you look at it, maybe think about, like, I've heard the term like light or white magic. A lot of that tends to be airy fairy. And like, again, even though there's a lot of stigma attached to witchcraft, even the white version of witchcraft, I'm not talking about white as in skin color, but as in like a lighter form of magic or whatever, that even tends to have more acceptance than any type of Black spirituality, divination, magic. Once again, pay attention. Just Blaze said they demonize it so we don't realize we can create, we have power, and we are magic. I absolutely agree with Just Blaze there. Absolutely. Nessa said everything Black culture is wrong to you know who. Absolutely. But again, pay attention to the people who simultaneously demonize Black culture but steal from it. Not just the physical cultural things, but the spiritual things. Okay. See, there's a lot of people that's not paying attention to the stuff that they steal from Black and Indigenous or Indigenous people of North American spirituality. They really trying it right under our faces, and we're not paying attention. Kraft said, me too. First time I heard of Marie was on AHS, and I'm from Louisiana. Okay, so that makes me feel so much better, Leela. Okay, because that blows. I was like, damn, I never heard of this lady. I never heard of this lady. And I was like, how comes I never heard of her? Like, that's crazy. And I said this earlier. Damn, I think it just slipped. It might come back to me. Oh, that evil ass lady from AHS, Delphine, Lorelei, or whatever the hell her name is. She's real too. Just don't look her up because it's the stuff made of nightmares. Anyway. Thank you, Sister Crystal. Tiffany said, movie and television never do justice to Black witch characters. Never. Voodoo, hoodoo, or African ancestral spirituality and magic. Never. Even that show Always a Witch, they started that shit out with what's her face? I really like that show though. But they started the show with her in love with her white slave master. And she ended up in another time period, and then she wanted to go back to the white slave, like, and then they finally got it together and changed the story. But I was like, wait, what? Yeah, it was just wild, like just the way they tried to. I don't want to say if it's watered down or like they try again, even when they attempt their attempts at empowering that story still results in them taking jabs and taking out pieces of it. I don't know. That's just how I felt. Binge said, divine a derivative of divination, discerning the things of the spirit. Ooh, child. Binge, listen, I got to interview Binge because she just sounds like she has a lot of knowledge and power. I don't know if she's willing to share it with the folks because everybody's not ready for the information, but I would love to interview Binge. Sister Krista said, LOL, pressure cooker for quote, throwing yourself under the bus. Sometimes I have to do it to make a point. Because Sister Crystal, people be coming out here acting like they know everything, and I'm not gonna sit up here. I love to learn, and there's just things that I'm like ashamed, like, well, damn, I didn't know this. Nessa Allen said, so Marie was considered a black witch. Yeah. So I only found one resource that referred to her as a witch. Most of the resources refer to her as a voodoo priestess, practitioner, voodoo queen. But essentially, depending on how you think about things, I guess she could be considered a witch. But in voodoo, I don't think they use that word. I don't think that's a part of their terminology. So again, I know very limited about the structure of voodoo. But one of the things that I've learned, I think, is Black Spectrum Network. They are a network of practitioners. They're here on YouTube, and they talk about just like magic in general, but they talk about African spirituality, and they talk about voodoo and different things. And I did not realize how formalized voodoo was. So one of the things I learned from watching a video once was they said that there's people that will just get up and start working with, like, Aloha is like, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but Aloha would be like one of the entities or deities, I don't know if that's the right word, that people might work with in voodoo. So again, a lot of people know about Papa Legba. You might have heard the story about a young woman who was trying to summon Papa Legba, and then she ended up dead a few days later. So in that story, they talked about how I think there's different titles, and there's a lot of like training and stuff that goes with it. It's not something that at least those people from that group say, you don't just get up and be like, oh, I'm gonna reach out to Dantor and I'm gonna reach out to Papa Legba, because people watch AHS and think, oh, they can go do what they want. You might end up dead, or you might end up hurt, and again, there's a lot of stuff to it too, because this was a white person. There are white people that practice voodoo, but my understanding of voodoo is that voodoo was created, it was birthed at a time where a lot of African people were mixing their spiritual knowledge from their homeland, as a way to empower themselves. And I think in the Haitian Revolution and also the Maroons of Jamaica used a lot of that as fighting tactics. Okay, use that, and that's again a whole nother video. But if you really think about it, who is voodoo really for? Who is it meant to empower? This is no shade, to white people, but again, I think there are white people who go through the training, but I think they have to go under certain specific people. You can't just get up and be like, I'm going, I'm going to address this person and this person, because that woman ended up dead. She ended up dead, child. And he was talking about how people, there's a lot of people who are trying to work with different things that they don't know about, or that they don't have authority to work with. So it's very interesting. It's a very interesting concept. I don't know much about it, but I just thought it was very, very interesting. Tiffany said, I'm also hard pressed to find any good, thorough historical info on Tibita. Tiffany, we must be on the same wavelength. Let me tell you, after I was doing my research recently and just a lot of stuff, Tibita was coming to my mind, and I was like, hold up. I wonder if Tibita was actually a real witch. Like, I was just thinking about the Salem witchcraft trials, because there was a lot of people, child, that were burnt at the stake, and a lot of it was hysteria. But then I had heard somebody that said that Tibita was like a legit witch. Like, I had heard that, and I wanted to see if I could find information. I didn't start yet, but I had also thought about that, Tiffany. That's very interesting. They did her story wrong on the series Salem. I didn't watch that, but I know that's also a book too, right? What they did to her at the end of the series was messed up. Ooh, child, they stayed doing that. They love a whole nasty piece of unempowerment when it comes to Black people, so that doesn't surprise me. Um, Also, I've learned that the word witch actually means wise woman. I think that word, I mean, again, there's people out here doing all kinds of, dark shit and trying to ruin people's lives. I'm never going to pretend like that's not something that exists. However, we don't hear much about witches who learn about herbalism, healing, which there's a lot of people that do that. Maybe they don't call themselves that, but there's a lot of people that do that. And so I don't know. Very interesting. Benj said, metaphysics gave me so much clarity on biblical scripture. Benj, that is so dope. Like, this is why I said it would be so amazing to interview you, because I actually agree with you. Okay, so think about this. Brace yourselves. Get your tomatoes ready, okay? And your crosses, because some people might get mad. But I actually thought about the story in the Bible. Didn't Jesus spit into some like dirt and put it over somebody's eye, and like that's how they isn't there a story about that, of how he healed a blind person? And I was just like, why does that sound magical to me? Why does that sound like metaphysics? I'm just saying, it really, really came back to me. And even like water into wine, I'm like, isn't that transmutation? I'm just saying, when you really think about things without the lens of don't do this, you're gonna get pushed into the lake of fire, it really makes you think about things differently. But anyway, that's just my 2 cents. Again, not trying to offend anybody. It's just, this is the way that my mind works sometimes. And I think about, what the hell, 10-acre in Clearwater, 250. What? Sorry, my husband's sending me text, child. Stop bothering me, Jeff. I'm trying to do my live. Ben said, spot on. But I agree with Benj there. I agree. They do. It makes me want to reread some of the miracles of Jesus. And I know there is a lot of scripture in specifically the Old Testament that talks about sorcery and different things. Anyway, that's a whole nother conversation. Natasha Razor said, they demonize Haiti because we got rid of slavery. Natasha, you're speaking too much facts. And even Black people buy into the mess. Natasha, I'm going to turn it to Jay Wilson. Natasha, you know how Jay Wilson be saying people's names 11 times, child, to make a point. I absolutely agree with Natasha. Okay, so I'm going to recommend a video. Now, let me put my disclaimer, okay? I don't agree with everything he says, but this video was mad eye-opening, okay? It was, I posted a video of his recently about Little Kim. It's Rashad Jamal, University of Intelligence, and he talks about the Haitian Revolution. And what did he talk about? He talked about Haitian Revolution and magic and some other stuff. It was so good. If I could find it, I don't know if I want to post it, because like I said, people be getting mad and stuff. But that drink was mad good. Now, be forewarned, he does use a lot of profanity and he says the N-word a lot. And sometimes it's confusing, because he'll say things like, I'm trying to think. I don't agree with every single thing he says, but the brother be dropping gems. That's all I'm going to say. If you want to learn more about the Haitian Revolution and how some of that connects with things going on now, he has a very metaphysical view on things. So he talked about, what did he say? He talked about what happened recently. There was an earthquake in Haiti, and it was something that happened before that. Anyway, he just draws some parallels. Some of it resonates with me, some of it doesn't. Maybe it resonate with you, but check him out. Crafts and Hall with Leela say, yes, that lady is evil. I see a few things on her. Yeah, that Delphine lady, man. Whoo. Cray, cray, cray. Now that is demonic, okay? Bench said witches are called so for their ability to heal and change situations of oppression. Absolutely. Absolutely, Bench. That's my favorite definition of a witch, okay? A lot of witches out here, real witches, are doing healing. But again, they're demonized. That's all I'm going to say. Um, Come through at Bench Thinker. Bench said, honestly, the power of knowledge is everyone. Okay. Natasha said, it is the spirit of Baron that dug her up. I heard that too, Natasha. I heard that it was Baron, not Papa Legba that got her. Baron is known to snatch women. Ooh, child. Tiffany said the term witch is rooted in European craft. I believe it. Black folk have always historically used other terms. Exactly. So I really resonate with the term root worker, healer. I absolutely agree with you. I absolutely agree with Tiffany. Yes, Tiffany J. Ben said, I think of some people it's fashionable to claim the craft. Yes, it is. Okay. I don't have TikTok, but there's a whole segment of TikTok called Witch Talk. Like it's just, I don't know. It's very interesting. Tiffany said Tibetu was purportedly the first woman accused and tried in for Salem. She was burned, but she languished in jail for years. Ooh, that just pains my heart. It's crazy. You know what else, guys? That I'm very random, so please excuse my randomness. I also like anime, and there's this anime that I watched called Castlevania. I don't know how it's pronounced, and it's on Netflix, and it's so good. I'm gonna get to everybody's comments, by the way. But one of the things that stood out to me was this is very, very strange. So just ignore the story. I'm gonna get to a point, I promise. Dracula's partner in the show was a woman, I forget her name, and she was really good with studying herbalism for healing. Okay. She, did all kinds of potions and shit. They never referred to her as a witch. In fact, she actually was very scientific. She was very good at what she did, and she healed and helped a lot of people. And then the town people snatched her up. I'm sorry if I'm doing any spoilers, and did some things to her. And what was crazy was this lady was basically a scientist. She just learned and she understood how to use the herbs and different things to heal people. And they ended up doing stuff to her. And so to me, I think it's very similar to people who have this knowledge or try to study these things. And then people sit up there and try to act like, oh, yeah, they working with Satan. Like, it's crazy. It's just crazy. Anyway, Just Blaze Detroit said, that's my lane. I found witchcraft through learning herbalism and yoga. And I think different people get to different paths, through different methods. And for me, I love herbalism. I love learning about plants. I love learning about their, I'm trying to think of the word, their actual properties and their magical properties. I love that shit. And I never knew I had that side of me, but I got a whole bunch of books. So shout out to Just Blaze. Okay. Hello, beautiful Sun 33. Good morning. Ben said 100. Look, I'm behind y'all. I'm sorry. Hey, Clyde Bussin. Look, how many different names do you have? Happy Saturday. Ben said herbalism was a gateway for me to this path. Yeah, me too. Me too. Plants. There's a book called Plants Have So Much to Give Us. All you have to do is ask. I think it's by an indigenous woman. I don't remember her name. My husband has that book. It's funny. My husband had mad books way before I started paying attention to herbalism. It's just funny. Sometimes you're just not ready. Anyway, Clyde said, Leela's just saying hi. Yes, Lisa Tempest. My girl Tiffany, she knows. Okay, Lisa Tempest, the church accused her. The church accused her of the craft on Castlevania. Okay, and I was just like, are you serious? You just killed a doctor. Like, you basically just killed somebody that can help you. Okay, you're out here doing the absolute most, and you just killed this lady. I was big mad. I was like, shout out to Lisa. I was like, she really resonated with me. She was smart. She was learning her stuff, and these idiots. Okay, and that's the reason why they got killed by all them damn creatures. Okay, anyway. But yeah, Lisa Tempest. Thank you, Tiffany. That's exactly who she was. But yeah, what else was I gonna say? I'm trying to think. I think I talked about this in another video. I've been trying to build relationships with some of the indigenous people near where I live, and the little time that I've spent with some of them, one of them is an elder. I've learned so much. I've learned so much from him. It's like not tons of information, but it feels like tons to me because it's like, wow. And I really enjoyed it. And I'm just like, wow, it just makes me think about how we move away from the simple things in life, or how we allow different entities, peoples, or whoever to distract us from different things. But I want to say this: I think the people of Haiti are very powerful. They won that whole revolution, child. Okay. And I think France is still butthurt. They're still butthurt because they got defeated. My husband was telling me that Francis Petty ass sent them a bill after they got emancipated. Like, I was just like, how you gonna send somebody a bill after you enslaved them? It was crazy. I don't know. Like, maybe I'm butchering some of that details, but y'all can let me know. Tiffany said Lisa ain't give a damn about the count. She sure didn't. She wasn't afraid. Okay. She wanted access to his technological gadgets. Lisa was ready. Okay. They weren't ready for Lisa. It was sad. I really liked her character. And I was like, damn. Like, I was so hyped. And those people, they just ruined it. They just ruined it. But this is what they do. This is what they do. So hopefully, I think if this was years ago, I wouldn't be willing to do this topic. I'd be very afraid, and but I want to say, in the research that I did about Marie Laveau, I was, even though it was skimpy and slim pickings in terms of the lure and the things that she did, I liked that they talked about her as a respectable person. That really surprised me. I don't know if it's because she was one of the most powerful people in New Orleans, but I really appreciated that there wasn't like a lot of slander. There's a couple articles that did some stupid shit, but I really appreciated it. And it talked about different things. This makes me really want to do the nanny video. I'm not going to make any promises about when I release that if I do it, because I took forever to do this second episode of Gazpacho. Tiffany said France and every other country in the West, ours included. Okay, stay hating on Haiti. Let them hate. Okay, let them hate. Child, I'm not gonna say no more, but I think the people of Haiti are trying to rise up. But yeah, that's all I got for you guys. Let me read Natasha's comment. Natasha said, because of the Haitian Revolution, slavery was stopped in Europe. Whoo, see, I didn't even know that. Thank you, Natasha. That is why the Europeans would not help the Confederacy during the Civil War. Come through, Natasha, with the facts. See, and this is the type of stuff that I'm talking about, guys. Like, it's just like, I don't know. I just like to reread stuff and really dig deeper for sources, because I realize a lot of the stuff that they teach us in school is a bunch of whitewashed bullshit. And even the history books are meant to disempower us. Like, you have to think about that. Yes, a lot of that stuff happened, but a lot of stories are extracted. I'll never forget this, and I don't want to make it seem like I'm defending this man, because it sounds like he committed some crime. So look, first, let me say my disclaimer. What is his name? Damn it. It was the dude that did the movie about, oh my gosh, was it Nat? Why can't I, like, I'm drawing a blank. So he was like a rebellious slave, and he burnt a lot of shit down, honey. Okay, he burnt down a lot of plantations. Nat's Rebellion. Oh my gosh, what is his last name? Anyway, there was an actor who basically, he was a black actor. He came out with this movie. I think he directed it and stuff. And child, again, what he did was wrong. So y'all know I don't defend predators. All these stories started coming out about this man, about what he did when he was in college to this woman. And I thought, this man has been in several movies. He's done a lot of things. And they waited until he did a movie about Nat's Rebellion to tear this man down. We haven't even seen him since then. I watched that movie, and that movie was so dope. And it really, really was inspiring, because it just shows the ways some people fought back. I cannot think. Let me look it up real quick, because this is bothering me that I can't. Oh, I think it was Nat Turner. It was Nat Turner. And I think the name of the movie was Birth of a Nation. And it was Nate Parker. Thank you, Benj. And I'm gonna get back to these comments, but I always try to look at what else is happening. And I'm thinking, like, okay, if you did this shit, you need to be held accountable. But this man has done I'm pretty sure by then Nate Parker would have been in a lot of different things. I just found it interesting that they chose to do a smear campaign when he did a movie about Nat Turner, and it did very good, and then it got shut down. Like, it seemed like they tried to suppress it. Hollywood only wants movies about black people getting their ass beat, getting beheaded, just all kinds of stuff. They don't want movies about black people feeling empowered. They don't. And this is the reason why I stopped watching a lot of slave movies. The last slave movie I watched in the theater was fucking 12 Years a Slave. I'm tired of that story. We know it's real, and I've studied slavery on my own. So I'm not trying to say I don't care about those details. I'm just saying, Hollywood, we need you to do better. And we know you won't, because that is your whole intention, is to demean and disempower us. And it's just so crazy to me that this man did this movie. It was an incredibly powerful movie. If you've never seen it, I encourage you to watch it. Okay, The Birth of a Nation. The joint was like intense. And I was like, yo, they really launched a whole smear campaign against this man. Very, very interesting. That's just me. I'm just saying, I thought it was fishy. I don't know if you guys thought it was fishy too. Once again, we're not making any excuses for any predators, okay, because we don't hear, but very interesting. Okay. Natasha said, because, oh, sorry, I read that. Just Blaze said, I'm glad we can talk about it now. I stopped because being called a demon was getting to me. I'm educated now and I know they're ignorant. Facts, Just Blaze. And you know what, sis? You can't talk about it with everybody. Everybody's not ready. Okay. And you have to know who and when to talk about it with, because some people just aren't ready. And if they want to stay stuck, and that's on them. That's to me, it's like, whatever. I feel enlightened. Okay, I don't feel trapped. I don't feel like no spirits is following and haunting me. None of that shit. I feel more empowered in my life since I've been paying attention to those things. So I that totally resonates with me. Tiffany said, Just Blaze, ignorance and misinfo continues to be the bliss for some folks, unfortunately. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, it was a great movie. Tiffany said Nate Parker returned another movie recently, something about men who took over a police. Ooh, child. Just Blaze said images are powerful. I don't watch anything that makes us less than. Absolutely. I refuse to watch slave theme movies. I stopped. I was just like, this is crazy. And I do love 12 Years a Slave, because that's how I feel like Lupita got her rise to fame. And I really like Lupita. But I was just like, I'm sick of this shit. I am sick of it. So I'm not supporting no more Hollywood slavery movies and none of that shit, or shows. Okay, they can keep it. Okay, because that stuff gets in your spirit and it's nasty and it's just horrible. It's why would I want to reenact my trauma, my ancestral trauma, by watching that shit day in, day out? They don't be putting nothing out, to lift us up. They don't want to talk about how magical we are. They don't want to talk about that. Tiffany said, if you want to see a legit flick on slavery written by a black filmmaker named Hyle, child, I'm not even going to say that name because I'm going to ruin it. Sankofa is a good one. Wait, let me write that down. Thank you, Tiffany. Sankofa. They didn't even carry it on mainstream theaters. It's on Netflix. It's on Netflix. Okay, I'll check it out. Thank you so much. That's an excellent recommendation. I just want to say I appreciate everybody that's here with me in the chat. Okay, thank you for sharing your thoughts, your feelings. Thank you for everything that you shared. It just really, really was powerful, and I really didn't expect this much support and insight around this topic. So thank you guys. Shout out to those people. I really appreciate all of y'all. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the people that's in the bushes. Thank you for the people that will watch the replay. And I just appreciate y'all so, so much. I don't know what the next Gazpacho episode will be about. I have to find a theme. It seems like you guys like to vote on it, but I will think of a theme and then we'll do that. And then sometime in the future, I'll probably just do a separate nanny video, because I just really, I like to dive into the history of my country. And so, yeah, that would be dope. I was shocked when I saw Sankofa recently added to Netflix. When I saw it years ago, I had to go to the small theater at a university. Wow, that's so crazy. Wow. Oh, I wrote that down. Yeah, check it out. It sounds really powerful. Sister Crystal said, thank you so much for the live stream. You're welcome, love. Thank you for being here. Thank you for modding. Thank you for your support. I appreciate you. Okay. Shout out to Ben. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Nice live. Thank you so much, Benj. Thank you for being here. Nessa said, I'm going to look at that movie, Tiffany. Thank you. Yes. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Sistren, I should say. Thank you for being here. I hope you guys have a wonderful, empowered day. I'm sending you all love. I got to go to the grocery store. I don't feel like it, but I got you. It's just one of my weekend errands. All right, guys. You're welcome, Natasha. Thank you for being here. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye. I'm gonna have to go back and write all this stuff down too. You're welcome, Leela. Thanks for being here. Bye, guys.